Lance.
I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are
hard to master.
Such as
Root, the Marauder Expansion. So we've done a Root video. We wanted to talk about the Marauder Expansion. What's in that? We do have like another Hireling Pack, and that you can get them separate. So if you did not back the Kickstarter, these are available where you can get them individually. So they were selling them at Gen Con. I believe the pre-orders are probably going to be shipped out soon if they haven't already, as well as maybe other retailers online.
So what is new? What do you get in this new expansion that's going to change up the base game for you?
So I'll lead it up for us. So there are, because I have played a lot more Root than Lance. Them bots, man. Them bots get you. So, and I do have a video on that if you want to check it out for solo bots. But in the Marauder expansion that you can get in retail, you're going to have two new factions. You're going to have the Lord of the Hundreds, and you're going to have the Keepers of Iron. And so why don't we start there? You also have some of the different hirelings, which are based off the base factions. So you'll have the cats, you'll have the birds, you'll have the mice, and you'll have a vagabond, which is the bear in this base set. And then we'll talk about what comes in the other stuff. I think that's only about right, because it's going to be different hirelings and things. So in the base set, you have those two factions. The Lords of the Hundred, I feel, are kind of like Woodland Alliance-ish, and people may have other factions they think that they feel like, but to me it felt kind of like Woodland Alliance, but you also have a leader ability that you're going to be using that gives you a bonus for that round, but the next round you will have to pick a new leader, and you can't have a leader that matches the items that you get from the ruins, which you place on your board to gain more actions, essentially. So in a nutshell, that's what you're doing. So you do have a little bit of a vagabond-esque by which items you get, and then you put here, or a craft also, and you have a little bit of either a minister or an eerie leader ability that you're going to have, so that you trade like out.
A mesh of different
they
factions.
took a few different ideas and put them together, and I think that's what really worked with these. The biggest thing with them, in addition to their leaders, are you're going to have these mob tokens, and these mob tokens are inciting on the board and causing things to be removed, and so you definitely want to attack those mob tokens if you're playing against them. So you'll have plenty of rats. They're the rats. These do have stickers from Levity Games. I post and rave about them. Root are some of the best stickers that they make. I love them. And he actually sent me this set. So that's what you're seeing on these meeples. Now the meeples are going to be base, but they do screen print them usually for leader games. But that's why they look a little bit different. But the rats, you do have one leader rat, which has a flag, which has some other abilities that are going to take place on your board when you're doing your actions. Other than that, you just have a ton of rats, kind of like the cats have a ton of cats. Yeah. And so it has a little bit of that too. I mean, you have more characters than anybody else. So it even has some cat, the marquee into it. So there's a lot of different things they meshed here, and I really like them. They're one of my favorites. I do love the moles.
That's super one of my favorites. Annoying when you're going up against them.
But when you play as them, I mean, if you're playing well, and we played a very long game, and we'll talk about that when we get to some of the hireling stuff. But I mean, people will have to make it a point to stop you.
Stop the mob.
You will keep it going, and especially if you get a dominance card, dominance cards can prolong the game forever. And again, we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's the Lords of the Hundred. The rats, really like that faction. I'm really pumped that they're in the game now. Another one that you get are the Keepers of Iron, and the Keepers of Iron are the Badgers, and I believe they're Badgers, right?
Yeah, they're Badgers.
Yeah, they're the Badgers. And they actually are like if you took the Eerie Dynasty and They will have these loyal retainers, which kind of act as your bird cards in that decree. But they have a retinue, and the retinue can have up to 10 cards. And throughout your turn, you're going to be able to place cards up top. The benefit is you do not have to fulfill all of your retinue, or you get turmoil like the Eerie. That doesn't happen. So you can pick and choose what cards you have there and which ones you want to play, or not play, but to act on.
Yeah.
But you have to decide, instead of several slots, you just have 3. So you'll be moving, you'll be battling, or battling and delving, or just delving if there's no battle there. So it has also a vagabond aspect to it, kind of.
Yep.
You're sneaking into the forest, pulling that token out, and those tokens will have either a tome or a tablet. You'll have a statue, or you'll also have an acorn, and you're trying to pull those out and take them to way stations. So your way station is how you craft, whereas the Lords of the Hundred, you're crafting where your strongholds are, kind of like different buildings like other factions would do. They actually craft where you have these way stations, which are where you're taking these tokens. But if you delve with them and you don't have control around the space that you need, because they're either going to have a 1, 2, or 3 next to that symbol of what type of tile or token you're taking, if you don't have control of that many spaces, you're going to lose one of your loyal,
and that can be pretty
your faithful retainers. So
yeah.
Which gets a bird card out, and as you know, bird cards free up the different options you have. So that's what they do. As you get them tokens to the way station, they're going to go on your board, and based on how many points that was, you will get, or how many points, or the number on the token, you'll get that many points. As you complete columns, you will get additional points. So 2 points for every column that you complete, which has 1 of each type of token. And again, there are 3 types. So that's how they work. I will tell you, they are much tougher. They're a faction that I enjoyed playing. I played with them. I would think, though, you want to get them with an experienced player.
Yeah.
They're going to be kind of like the River Folk, or factions like that, maybe the Lizard Cult and things where you have to be a little bit more familiar with the game to do
They're a
well.
puzzly faction to play with, because you're not only going up against the other players at the table, but you're actually kind of trying to solve a puzzle in and of itself with
where can you get the tokens that you have control so you don't lose people. I would say putting cards up is still good, because you can have up to 10, and that gives you the option for more actions. So having that and not having to worry about turmoil is actually really, I thought, really nice in it. But they are going to be tougher, more complex to use. If you do your setup and your faction picking based on the chart in the rulebook, because you'll have a new updated rulebook in this expansion, then both of these are high. So you know the cats are the highest, are a 10. I believe the Lords of the 100 and the Keepers of Iron are both 9s, or maybe an 8 for the Keepers of Iron, if I can't remember. But they're all high factions, so they're going to be able to be put into games with other maybe lower factions based on player count, and you're still going to reach that plus 17, plus however many you need to have a fairly skilled game, they say. Yeah. So those are the factions. I like them both. I'm partial a little bit to the rats. I really like the rats. I really like the moles, and I feel like they're another one that's right there. They're just really, really good to use. I do really like the challenge of the Keepers of Iron, though. Having to play a tougher game is important for me at a lot of times. In addition to that,
tell us about the Hirelings.
Well, before that, I do want to just address, you do have advanced setup. So if you want to switch up the setup and maybe you're tired of the base setup of, cats go here and they put their keep token here and the birds and all that, you can actually play with advanced setup, which you're going to be setting up in a different way. So not necessarily in that corner and away from here, and sometimes you can't because of factions and where they set up. This gives you a different setup. Sometimes you get more people on the board, sometimes you have less people. This is another thing that you can throw into your games to spice up route, so you're playing more replayability
cool.
and variation.
Very
so
cool.
There is that, and then we get to the hirelings, and with the hirelings, again, you're gonna have a base set of cards. So in the base or the expansion box here, you're gonna get your Eerie, which have two sides. You have a demoted and a promoted side, and based on player count, you're gonna set up so many of each. You have your Exile and your Brigand, which are gonna be your Vagabond. A couple different ones in the different sets. This one, you have your Cats, Force Patrol, and your Feline Physicians, which is like the hospital ability. And you have your Woodland Alliances, your Mice. And you cannot play with one of these factions if you're playing with the hirelings. You need to pick your factions, and then you'll pick your hirelings from what was not taken. And so if someone's playing the Eerie, you can't put this one in. You would have to choose 3 others. So it could come down to, based on which expansions and stuff you have, is going to dictate if you could use the hirelings, I guess, because if you just had a base box in this, I mean, depending on player count, it's going to be tough. Now, when we get, well, talk about that in a second. We do have the meeples. So if you have a promoted side, usually that's where the meeples come into play. Usually your demoted side doesn't. It's just like the field hospitals where it's an ability. But you do have meeples, so you have your Cats. Again, stickers have been sent to me and placed on here, and I love them. I love them. With your Exile, you do have 3 tokens that will be played when you're using them, and then the Mice. So this is what you get as far as hirelings. You will also get 2 dice. One is for the Woodland Alliance and their ability. One is for all the hirelings. Whenever you gain a hireling, which is going to happen, you're going to place these tokens at 4, 8, and 12 point slots. First person that reaches there is going to take this token and put it below their board right here, below their evening, to remind them. And you're going to roll this brown dice, and it has gold pips and orange pips. So whenever I roll that, if I'm in first place, which taking the first hireling I'm going to, I'm only going to count the gold pips. If it is later, because say this die has 2 gold pips, I'm going to take 2 of these tokens. They're going to come to my board, and at the end of my next round, I'm going to get rid of one. And then the end of the next round, I'm going to get rid of one. After that, I have to pass this hireling to somebody else. Anybody else at the table, except for yourself. Even if you have split personality. You got to pass it to somebody else. They get it, they're going to roll that die. If they've moved into first place, same thing. They're only counting the gold pips. But if they're still behind and not in first place, they count all these diamond-shaped pips, including the orange ones, which then they're going to gain that many tokens. So they might get 4 times with it.
Yeah.
So that can be very powerful. And then at 8 points, the next person, whoever hits that first, is going to pick one of the hirelings. They're going to come and they're going to roll the die and get more of these tokens. Same thing at 12. After 12, they're all 3 in play, and they're passed every time that you run out of tokens, because your rounds have expired, basically. You've done all the turns you had from the die that you roll. So in this box, what do you get? You're going to get the lizards, you're going to get the riverfolk, and you're going to get porcupines. So in addition, you will have more cards that will be in here, and you will substitute them in the game. So I think having more of these is cool, especially if you're a completionist. It's cool. I like the idea of these. I think that the way that they created them to feel and resemble what they are as a faction in the game is great. I love that about them. I love having a different look of the meeples, because the meeples, even without the stickers, look different than your base set of meeples from the root factions. So I like having that. And they're different amounts too, because based on what the card says, you can only have so many. So you see there's only 4 rabbits, I keep saying mice, 4 rabbits in here. And of these 4 rabbits, you'll see that at the beginning of the game, you're going to roll. Where's the rabbit, people? So first in your, is that Birdsong? Yeah, Birdsong, you're going to roll the uprising die, and you must remove an uprising warrior, which would be a rabbit, and all enemy pieces, or you can place one, or you have to place one somewhere. So these are going to come out on the board with the promoted side. Again, with the demoted side, it's just an ability, and you are the only one that gets it while you have those tokens until you pass that card away. So I like how they work. I like the creativity in it. I like having more meeples to play with. I will say I'm hindered by some things, and I'm going to give Lance a chance to talk before I talk about it, just because I've talked a lot.
Well, so my thoughts on the hirelings, like Jeremy has said, they add a lot to the game experience, and you really get a fuller experience with the factions that aren't actually in your game that you're playing with. And that really adds to the theme, because when you're playing a 3-player game and it's just 3 factions and you've got so much other content left in the box that you haven't broken out, you can add these hirelings in it, and it's not too much extra to set up, and it's not too much extra to the rules to try to wrap your mind around, and yet you still get a fuller experience as if you were playing a higher player count game. Now, is it exactly the same? No, but it's
you just see more factions, and you're in the forest a little bit more.
It's a nice addition to it that doesn't add too much complexity to the game. I enjoy that aspect of it. And like Jeremy said, it's very creative. The things they do feel powerful. You feel like you're getting a really big boon when you have them. You feel like you're losing a lot when you have to pass it on to someone. I like that give and take aspect of it. It's really cool. The thing that doesn't work so great.
You want to say it, or do you want me to say it?
Let's both add it out there, is that it's really great having it in a 2-player game, because I pass it to him, he passes it to me. It's back and forth, back and forth. And maybe there's some, gameplay in that I want to time it out, and when do I really use it? And I know.
Well, you're giving it after so many rounds anyways.
Yeah.
You want to use them when you have them, because otherwise you're just giving tokens away.
You want to
you're gonna
strategize your turns to really give big turns when you have those
I think you base your actions more off of it. I think that's what he means by timing, because you're given those tokens whether you use it or not for the round. And once your rounds are up with it, you pass it to someone else, they roll the die. So in a 2-player game, it's great, because we're just passing it back and forth.
But in a higher player count game, especially in like a 3-player count game.
In a Jeremy, Mo Mini's Mo Problem game, I'm not going to see hirelings. We'll be honest, I don't ever get to use them because y'all take them.
There's not a rule as far as who you have to pass it to. And so you don't want to pass it to the person that's in first. You don't want to give them any
or third. Wherever I'm at, I can't get one.
You want to make sure that you're giving it to the person that you feel like can't
prolong the game for you to
catch in. They can't catch back up. So you're going to be giving it to the person who's in last, almost always the case. And if you are the person in last, you're not going to give it to the person who's right there, right next to you, because you want to catch and get ahead of that person.
Or you could give it to someone who you think is not close to you to attack you or something.
Right.
And
so there is some keep away.
There's a lot of keep away.
There's a lot of keep away, and it does feel like it's a bit of a rote experience, as far as Jeremy's going to know he's never going to get one sent to him. And so it's already written in stone that's going to be the case.
I get it at 4, and then I'm
never going to get it again.
Or y'all get it, and I get it at 12 finally, and then it's like one and done.
And I know that Jeremiah, he's going to give it to me whenever he's done with it, because he doesn't want to give it to Jeremy, or he doesn't want to give it to Jacob, or he doesn't want to give it to somebody.
Jeremiah's never giving it to you now. Just
well,
so you know.
I know, yeah.
I'm gonna tell him to watch the video, never getting it. Sorry.
You just know these things when you're going to break it out and you're going to start playing with it before it even happens. And so does that ruin the whole experience? I don't think it does, but it does prolong the game. It does make it a little less glamorous.
So I will say, because I've seen it over and over, and I rarely ever get to use them. I think they're cool. I like them. I think the ability's great. It'd be nice to use them more.
Yeah.
It's always keep away. Even in a 4 or 5 player game, it went to everybody but me. Somehow I pulled it out the victory. I feel like, and I told you this, in a 2-player game, it's great to actually utilize them, get a feel for them, and it balances it very well. I feel like with more than 2 people, I would use them if I'm using a faction where I feel like I'm really confident. Like if I'm playing Scythe and I'm Rust Fiat, I need something to handicap me, because I feel like when we play that I've got the faction down, I know how to win quickly or Crimea with certain. You just kind of get it down. I feel like I would rather need to play something a little bit more difficult just because I've played it more. I played Root more, so I feel like if I was playing with certain people that maybe haven't played as much as me or aren't very good at figuring out how to keep factions from doing so well, I would probably give them, I would probably put them in a higher player count game to try and even it out. Because I will tell you, you can still win not getting hirelings, but it does prolong the game. It does make it way tougher because the balance changes. And the factions are pretty balanced, and they've corrected them and errata, everything in the new rule books and stuff as they come out. But now you've got 2 people that have 3 bonus abilities every turn that you don't have. So your balance just went down here. And I can tell you, if you're playing a game and you take a dominance card and it's about to be over and they have all the hirelings, it's going to be a stalemated 4 or 5 hour game, because you are there and they have that hireling, or they can together keep you from getting that one. It's always tie, so you don't have dominance, and it's going to be a long, never-ending game.
Yeah.
Again, I played with the hirelings in more than 3. I played with 3. And it just, I like what they do, but I will not take a dominance card for sure if they're in the game and I'm playing a game where I'm trying to even out the playing field. I think that's a great way to even out the playing field too, though, is if you feel like you're playing, if I'm playing the Marquis or I'm playing the Rats and I have them down really well, or the Moles and other people are trying the River Folk and they've never done it, or they're not very, they're playing a more complex thing or something like that. Throw them in and you're going to see that they're going to have them all the time probably, because you may be ahead, or you may feel confident and they don't about the situation. And it's going to even it a bit for them because they're playing a tougher game versus what you already know and know how to play. So 2-player, I think it's great. Then you get down to, do I do bots? Because, I love playing with the bot. Or do I do hirelings? I think they both have a different place. I think you can, again, a bot is either going to make it a co-op game, which is a whole different experience. If you've not played a co-op game or Root with the bot, you should try it. It's tough, depending on what you have and what comes out and everything else, but it can be tough. If you're playing bots as solo, obviously you're not going to play this with the hireling solo. If I'm going to play bots with 2 or 3 players, I threw a whole new person in there that's not there, and I'm just running them like Power Grid with the bots. And I would have to, do I want to play 2-player in a bot, or do I want to play 2-player in a hireling? I think you could do either one, whether it's competitive or cooperative. And then you have your hirelings where it's, it's going to be back and forth. So it's pretty balanced as a 2-player game. People I know that play 2-player Root quite a bit love the hirelings. I'm not saying the hirelings are bad. I really like the hirelings for what they do.
Mm-hmm.
but I'm only going to put them in a multiplayer game over two
situational
if I really just want the abilities to be in there and try them out, or I want a harder game because I want to give other people a crutch or a handicap in the game.
So they serve a purpose, but it's not going to be something that you'll likely play in every single game of Root.
I mean, some people will.
You might. You might. But depending on what you're going for, and like Jeremy said, if you want games that can be unbalanced and give advantages to lesser experienced players, then that may be something that works for you, and that's something that you can.
And we're not saying that the hirelings are unbalanced by any means. We're just saying that
it can give a lot of advantages.
It's going to give other people bonus abilities that were not designed when factions were created.
Exactly.
In addition to that, if you back the Kickstarter, I do just want to say, again, I have the moles here, so you can do the moles with the buck and the crows. I don't have the newest one because of that big box that I'm going to throw away. I just haven't done that yet. But if you did the Kickstarter, you also could have landscapes. I did get these at Gen Con. This was the one thing I wanted for sure, in addition to the moles and the crows, was the landscapes, because they alter the game. And if you're in spaces with these landscapes, it's going to do something different. I love the tower and the mountain map. The mountain map is my favorite map to use. Being able to discard cards to remove the tunnel to gain the point. If you have control of the middle space where the fort is or the tower, I get an additional point for controlling that. I love that addition. I am ready to throw these in the game. This is the #1 thing I want to add to my game and test out. I love the addition of this. So I've not gotten to use these yet, but if you back the Kickstarter or you buy the landscape pack, which is a little bitty box, does have the different cards to let you know how that landscape is going to work.
Yeah.
You have the treetops, you have the black market, the legendary forge, and the lost city. And you'll know from the world you have the ferry and the tower. So huge thing. If you like the tower and the ferry, the #1 expansion or thing to add, I'm going to tell you, is the landscape. I really like the tower.
Well, there you have it. That is Root and the Marauder expansion with the hirelings and landscapes. I mean, you got a lot.
Just about everything you can see.
A lot of extras here for Root with what you've seen in this video. So leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about Root in general and what you think about this new expansion, as well as the hirelings and everything else you've seen in this video. If you like the video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell icon to be notified of all of our new great content. I'm Lance.
Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are hard to master. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.